Dan, can you comment on what you just heard, what you've heard today, and then in particular sort of share your view, IHS's view about what the outlook is for gas demand for potential exports from Israel, and how that is affected by what we see happening in the market today, including the oil price decline?
That's a big question. Sure, I'll start off. I'll try to get all the different aspects of the question that you asked. I'll start off with what you said about the significance of gas here in the region. And it was said earlier today, there's a real potential energy revolution that's taking place here with a lot of terrific potential aspects for the region. Shaul Tzemach made the distinction between energy security and energy self-sufficiency. Having gas here really will contribute to energy security in a very fundamental way. The amount of money that will come to the state from the sale of hydrocarbons, and here I'm talking specifically about Israel, is tremendous. Tamar itself is just 1% of the GDP of Israel. Leviathan is double the size, so potentially double the GDP effect. There's been a lot of discussions today about, including at this panel, about the profound opportunities for geopolitical collaboration. And one other aspect about the monetary or the economic benefits that could accrue to the state also was mentioned earlier today is local content and the ability of Israel to provide goods, services, and people for the development of the offshore here, but also to learn more about what's going on in the global upstream industry and become players in the upstream industry. So I just touched on a couple of the different things which I think are very significant with respect to the energy picture here. A lot of discussion has focused today around the potential exports, and that's the focus of this panel. And the opportunity is terrific. If you look at all the agreements and the signed LOIs that Israel has for the next 15 years, we're talking about 230 BCM. If you look at what has actually been signed, however, and you take away the LOIs, you go down to 6 BCM, which is the Arab potash deal and the deal with the Palestinian power generation company. So one of the challenges that is one of the major challenges that Israel is going to face, and it has regional implications, is how do you go between this potential and realizing it. Amos mentioned that just because something is difficult doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it. A very big believer in if companies will smell money, they will go after it. What people on a panel will say will only have a certain amount of. It doesn't really. It's interesting. We help generate ideas, but at the end of the day, it's the companies that make the decisions. If you look at the export possibilities for Israel, and you look at the main potential markets, which are Jordan, Egypt, and the LNG market, probably the most likely one to happen is Jordan. The commercial drivers are there, which is why their LOIs have been signed in the first place. But there's a real pressing need for the gas. The NEPCO is every time they sell electricity, they're losing a lot of money, and Israel can play an important role in helping reduce that gap. The Jordanians, of course, will have to deal with their own subsidies. But there's a very strong driver that's pushing that forward, and I think there's a lot of, even though the headlines sometimes seem to suggest otherwise, I think there's a lot of underlying political will to make this happen. Egypt also has a lot of political will. I think there's a lot more in common between Egypt and Israel than might otherwise be seen in the headlines. It's much more complicated for technical reasons, political reasons, as well. When the whole issue with when Egypt was exporting gas to Israel, and the unfortunate what happened with the sabotage of the pipelines, and now the Israelis or certain Israeli parties have taken the Egyptian sides to arbitration. So that complicates things even further. I think there's a very strong will to try and find a way to make it happen, but it's a little more complicated. And then with respect to LNG, there's a lot of competition out in the world. I defer to my colleague from BG, of course, as a player about his views on the market. But what we see is a lot of competition coming online. If you look at LNG for the if you look at the amount of LNG that is being projects which are being suggested into the market up into the year 2025, we're looking at 600. We have a service which tracks LNG. We see 685 million tons per year of proposed capacity going into the market. If you look at the demand, however, the demand can only accept about a sixth of that. So there's a very large gap here. And what that means is only the most economic projects are going to be the ones which will be accepted in the short term. Gas from the region, gas here is somewhat expensive. It's got a ways to go. It's going to compete with the United States, Australia, East Africa, and we don't see. We think that the chances that there'll be much gas landing from a source in the Eastern Mediterranean that is new before 2025 is highly unlikely.
So we've talked a lot about the geopolitical challenges bringing it to market, but you bring up the market and economic challenges. You said it's somewhat expensive and has a ways to go. Can you be more specific? Where do you and your colleagues at IHS see Eastern Mediterranean Israeli gas falling on the cost curve? What kind of global LNG prices do we need to see to make it economic relative to Mozambique and Tanzania and the new projects in Australia that are very high cost? Which are the first to fall off the new supply list as prices start to get pressured?
Good question. Probably the people on our LNG team will have a more detailed view. I can talk about this in a high level. If you look at our forecast for LNG coming online up until 2025, we see 90% coming from 6 countries: the United States, Canada, Tanzania, Mozambique, Russia, and Australia. Russia and Australia are already producing LNG. The other 4 countries are going to be new.
Where's Qatar with this?
These are new.
No, we're talking about new, incremental LNG supplies. So Qatar is obviously one of the major gas suppliers, and LNG suppliers in the world today. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think our cost for LNG from Leviathan is somewhere between $10.5 and $11.5 CIF. So that is the price level that we see it at, and there are a number of other suppliers. If you look at the costs and delivering LNG, who can compete at that level. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think again we think that prior to 2025, it's pretty unlikely that there's going to be LNG from Eastern Med in the global market.